afternoon. It's Bill with Bill's Never Ending Projects, and I picked up this Farmall Super C, and I got it for $1,200 with a cultivator and a 3-point adapter. The 3-point adapter there. Big heavy piece, and that's the pulley. Well, not the pulley. Where's the pulley? Over there behind that box. Right there, and this is the thing that runs the pulley. And the top link. So I got the 3-point adapter with the top link, the pulley, and then that pulley gearbox is off there because this adapter's on here. I'll have to put a bigger bolt in there. I watched another guy's 2-point fast hitch, and my arm here, I don't know, maybe it is the same as his. I guess it does have that piece in here I didn't think was here, and then it has the flange. Oh, maybe. I heard there was 2 types of these, but yeah, and then I had the drawbar on there, so I got that. This thing will lift up the tractor in the back if you put a block of wood under the 3-point right here and over there, or even just on one side maybe, or put it in the middle here on the drawbar. If you put a block of wood there, then you can lift up the back tires off the ground. And I'm gonna have to, the guy put them in for me when I hauled it. I could haul, was it 6'10" and a half. So this one was way out. Let's see, you can see the pattern there. The outside was way out to here, so he put it in a good 6-8 inches. Anyway, it fit good on the trailer. Now I got to equal them back out. This here number on here, you'll never be able to see it. It's 194,988. I think that's what it is. I'm gonna have to do some rework on the seat well, I don't know, it's probably dark in here, but it's all rusted on the bottom. I got a regular C seat, but it's got this thing here going across it. I suppose that could be drilled from a regular seat. Probably the seat's the same. I probably never weld it, and this insert in here that's bent up. It's just a channel bent in a press. It's all rusted out. It covers these hoses. On this side, the tire was way out to here, so he put them in pretty far for me. Pick a spot 3 or 4 inches out or something and put them equal. I can use the fast hitch to lift it up to do that. But the 8x10 or whatever the tarp is, that costs nearly $100 at Tractor Supply, works pretty good. It covers up all the way to the back of the seat, and it hangs down to about the back of the tires there, and I want to rope from this axle to that axle through the grommets, and then right behind the gas tank I put a piece of heavy chain across that hangs down, that I don't have to put anything through the grommets there. And in the front I put 2 grommets together, bolt through 2 grommets to V like in the front. But here's the damage from the a lot of corroded stuff, and the battery box is just junk. I mean, the battery box is gone. He threw it, and then he moved the battery up there, put it in the box, and I changed the oil and changed the antifreeze. There was some really dirty antifreeze. I changed, it looks like somebody painted this at one time. Here's their rungs on the inner fender part, but I was glad I was able to get the serial number off it. I can't find one on the tractor from even a close to a matching serial number on the engine, so yeah, but I know the tires could last a few years since I don't use it much. That's why I got it for $1,200, and he hasn't kept up much for maintenance. Although I see a new solenoid there on the starter. So, but the two points seem to go up and down and stuff, and I got a front cultivator. The oil pressure gauge didn't work, and a gauge is coming. And when he first, what his story was, he used it 15 years, and then he left it sit for 15 years, I guess starting it once in a while. And then when I bought it, just before I got there, the few days earlier, he was having trouble with the float, sticking and leaking. But anyway, I've got these, my job is to get this box out of here, that the wiring goes in and the amp gauge goes on and stuff. So I made these posts here, go from this bar to the ground and one on the other side there to the ground, and then to lift it up to give me some clearance here, I then put a piece of plywood under because I guess I cut them exact, and I just put a couple clamps in there, one there and one over there. But I mean, that gauge there looks all rusty. I ordered the rest of the gauges. I've never had a heat gauge for the hydraulic or whatever it is. I don't even know what it is. But when I cover them up on the outside, then so I don't have any trouble, I always put a PVC pipe over the shift handle and then cover it up with some kind of a cover. I take off the muffler and just don't put clamps on them when you use it, and then you can, when it's cooled off, you can just pull it off. I put a glass jar on there, and that way it enables you to pull the tarp completely over it, make it almost as good as a machine shed, except for not getting the tires covered up. But with these kind of cracks, it took, I think, 5 quarts of oil and then 1 for the filter. And he must have hit the oil filter thing because it was brazed. I didn't think I'd get that oil ring around, but I did. But anyway, I'm going to go back to work here. I've got to get this box off there. I've got the 4 bolts out. I didn't have to hold any nuts in here. Inside there must be welded nuts up on the inside. I was grateful of that, and it looks like they're fine thread. So go back to work on this. Pick it back up later here. Hey, I did get a book with it. I had to put a new cover on it, but I used my printer and got a new cover on it. I thought it did pretty good. And to put the staples in, I didn't know if you open up your little red office stapler, little staplers that are about that long, and then put the staple in from this side with the book open, you know, spread out, and then put the center over a few towels or something, and the staple will stick out, and then it won't go into any table, and then you turn it around and then just bend them over with a hammer. That way, because the stapler won't reach across this. But since I have a regular C, that's usually going to keep a cultivator on it, I guess. Maybe not, but now I got a Super C because I just happened to come across it. I want to use the 2-point hitch for my blade that I bought about 15 years ago off a case, what was it, SC? And I would have to use my 3-point adapter. It's not a 2-point, but then I can get the hump down in the middle of my driveway because I got a long driveway. But because I drive a 88 Buick and it's low to the ground. But the difference is, I've heard other people talk on their YouTube channels, and I made a list. It definitely has one more gauge in the dash, because I asked somebody if this box under the steering post would fit from a normal C, and he said he thought so. It's just Super C's have one more gauge in it. The other ones must have it blocked off. And they obviously come with this 2-point hitch. It's got a cylinder on the back to make it go up and down. So then the other part of the hydraulic must make it tilt back and forth, as far as I can tell so far. He has a 12-volt battery in it, and he just used to charge the 12-volt battery, and he put a 12-volt coil on it, but I'll have to finish the conversion. But the difference in Farmall Super C is they made the radiator bigger. And am I in the dark here? I'll just go up and sit in the driver's seat. If I didn't just move it. So they made the radiator bigger, so the grill's bigger. The gas tank would have different brackets to lift it up to the height of the new height. The steering wheel is different. The brakes are different because they're disc brakes. Somebody said the gearing is different. Super C has a 6-digit serial number. Mine being 194988, 6 digits. My platform was built in January of 50. Oh, this is a 1954, the same age I was born, so that was cool. But anyway, back to the differences. So I guess several castings are stronger and heavier. Yeah, so the gas tank sits down on top of the touch control. While the one on the Super C is about 3 inches above the touch control. So a normal C, it sits down on top of the touch control. And a different style mounting brackets underneath, not interchangeable. The C and the Super had a long Farmall emblem. Cubs and the C's had a rectangular IH on the grill. Super not. I guess they have. It took me a while to figure it out. They have a water pump, and I didn't know where it was. I thought I didn't have one because I seen the fans still look different. Where you got to put that oil in that hole, turn it over, put it in until it drains out when you turn it over, and then put the plug back on. Still got all that without any bearings where you got to keep doing that. But so I figured it didn't have a water pump, but they have an extra belt on it, and the water pump goes way down by the generator. So I guess they do have a water pump. And then of course the Super C has a slightly larger larger engine. I think it's the C123. The price in 1954 was $1,700. They have longer rear axles and an 18-inch steering wheel. Bigger radiator by, I got 1.5 inches, but I thought it was 4 inches, but so I'm not sure on that.
One of the two.
98,000 of these Super Cs were built, plus 310, so 98,310. Total, including regular Cs and Super Cs, 178,000, somewhere in there. So my 194,988 is definitely a 1954 Super C. I know if you have the fast hitch, you either have a 53 or a 54. And I guess in 54, they also later on started making the 200. I guess the hydraulics has 1,500 psi max at 6 gallons per minute for flow. The reservoir hydraulic is about 2 gallons, and it's a single to run that, or something about a single acting cylinder you could run out of oil. But I don't know about any of that. I think a cylinder holds less than a quarter gallon, so I don't think it'd make any difference. And it has the multi-piece battery box. Mine has a non-battery box because it's so corroded there. So when you have the 2-piece battery box, all you have to do is take off one linkage, maneuver the choke kind of out of the way as you pull out the battery, pull it out from this side. So you only have to take one side off. Even though it's 2 pieces, you don't have to take one side off and just slide it out that way. Which I'll never be able to do, I guess, unless I get this gauge. Might as well call it the dashboard box. If I get this welded up and I don't have to go get a different one at the junkyard, why then maybe I would think about putting the battery back up here, but it's okay up there in that box. So that's about all I have there. And the owner's manual for the 53 and 54 do put the fast hitch in the, they put the fast hitch in the book. But I just know when you see this extra gauge to do with the hydraulic, I guess it says touch control something. It's so old. And there's somehow water must have got in there. This wasn't kept in the shed all the time. It couldn't have been. But at least somebody repainted it at one time, probably. I mean, I'm 69 years old, so this is 69 years old. And so that means it's almost 70 years old, and probably somewhere after it was 35 years old, maybe somebody painted it. So this paint job is probably 30 years old. So what I did is I put a cotter key in the switch so I can hold it to get the round portion of the switch unbolted so that it will pull out the hole, because the shaft will keep turning. So I'm going to have to pull that switch out, get the wires off it, so that when I mean the white thing is still hooked up and the amp gauge is completely unhooked, I think most wires are already cut. The battery acid did this, most everything in. So I'll have to get the wiring harness that they charge. It's about $160, I think. At least $135. I looked it up. I don't think it was $200, but if I bought that, maybe it'd make things easier. But
I never buy it. I bought
wait to play around with the fast hitch.
I bought a piece of 10 gauge wire to do the alternator to the battery. And a good spot to move the battery to would be in front of the clutch pedal. Make a frame there.
But that's the Super C, and that's some of the work I'm doing, and that's how I cover it up. I just keep the muffler off it. You can't cover it up with a tarp if the muffler's on there. And the reason I started using tarps instead of just letting them sit out is because I had one, the manifold was bad. So you put a can over the muffler, then the manifold's bad, it still got in there and ruined it. So this way, this manifold's good, I just put tarps over them. Now I know it's another $100, but that's the way it goes. Well, I'm gonna get back. I mean, obviously this box, I gotta weld it up. I don't know if I'll put anything on there now. I suppose I could, and I don't even know if it's fixable. In a few minutes, I'm gonna have it out here on the table. There seems to be only one bolt holding it, so I'm
Wrong.
trying to cut around this side and behind it and on that side. And if that's the only bolt holding it there, I got it pretty well cut through there. So I think I could just hit the box with a hammer. It'd be nice to be able to get the bolt out so I could keep the, I could measure the spot where the hole has to be to put it back on, but.
So all I do is I dent the box with a hammer.
I can't make out.
Then I had to fix it.
Of course, when you look at it on TV or YouTube, it always looks better. The bolt head's right in front of my fingernail there, and I'm trying to cut about a C around the back of it, about a 180 around the back. The whole part of the 180 in the front's gone from rust. Now I see on that that box that the gauges are in under the steering post, that bolt I'm working on in the front, there's two on the sides in the back and then one in the middle on the front. That's just the front one. Then there's one on each side in the corners up by where the gauges would go in, and the one on the clutch side, one on the brake side. So I can't get those out, and those are never going to unscrew. I might as well use the stick welder and burn the head off them. I'll try that now. Well, I stick welded a nut on there instead of cutting apart the cabinet because I just thought maybe I could bend the rod about 2 inches up so it would point straight down, and then I had to keep the nut from tipping over. It's a little crooked, but it's loose. So it's crooked though, so it keeps hitting the back side, but it's loose, so at least I think it's one I don't have to drill and tap, because then I would have to pull the steering completely off to get the drill in there. Still might have to. Well, there's the 1/2 inch nut. I welded on all 3 of them. They're all crooked and different lengths of weld I put in there. But they all took it off. So now I got the thing hanging over there. I got this mission switch out. The one that went up, the wire that went up through the steering, for the lights up through the pipe, went to here.
It's a light switch.
Red paint on, so I don't forget.
Not an ignition switch.
These
It's a
other
light
two,
switch.
One goes under here, and it's all not much left to it. It goes along the bottom. The other one wasn't hooked up. She says, oh, that's the fuse. So that's one's the ignition switch, and this is the, don't know what it is. I'd have to turn it around and look. It is an amp meter measuring amps. Okay, so I marked this one red, and I marked it red there. Of course, the gauge could flip around, but I think I got a little red paint on the gauge. This one goes up past the hydraulic. Got the ignition switch hooked to it. So I'm going to get that one off, get this gauge off, get this box out, and I got the welding to do. And at least I don't have to top anything. There's the spacing of the 3 holes. One here and one in kitty corner. Alright, so back to work. I don't think I'll do any of the welding today. The sun here is come up over, it's coming down on me. It always gets really hot over here around 5 o'clock. So I might put some more on this one after I weld the box up. Here was my bent rod, so I could point straight down and get a good burn through good
penetration.
So it was probably down to here. I burned it all the way back to there, welding it nut on. This is just a E6013. Well, it's the next day. Here's that rusty piece. It's upside down, of course. It has a slip on it, so if you turn it around, it just tips over. It just tips over like that, unless you put it over an edge or something. But that's the rusted part. So I imagine this floor was supposed to come out even with this, and the top part probably had a perfect. What's going on?
So the
Yeah, it zoomed away. I know.
so my sandblast.
The bottom part is the good part, except it was supposed to have a normal part in the center here.
That's the top part.
This one's a tip over. It's probably supposed to have a normal part in the center here with no rust, so I suppose I could put a new plate in there, cut a new hole for the wiring coming out of the steering post, I think. And that portion would be okay. I don't know. It seems like this is one piece bent up. Seems like this is one piece. The bottom, the top, and the bottom must be one piece. And then the other side, the right and the left and the front must be all one pressed piece. So I could patch the top piece, make a whole new bottom piece, or at least add on to it, and then since this is a hard piece to press out, you'd have to, when they pressed down on this, it must have had something in the underneath it that would make it form this shape. There's no way I can do anything like that, so I'll just have to put pieces on the side to fill up this. It's bad all the way up to here all the way back, so I'll just have to use several different small pieces to fix the ends. So I can do the top patch, the bottom patch. Yeah, so I can do the top patch. I can patch up the bottom, and I can make maybe one piece and then get it bent around a corner using something that's curved. maybe that would be a third patch. And then this side over here, I must have hit it with the sledgehammer. Maybe I can straighten that out. Oh, it's all rusty on the inside. Yeah, maybe I don't want to patch this one. It's all rusty on this side. I guess I can't tell what I got to work with, so I'm going to, I got this cardboard on top of this fish tank with a little door that opens. So if I put my welding leather on one hand, or both of them in my gloves, and then kept the cover partially shut or something, I think I can sandblast this without getting sand all around and having to breathe it. So I certainly don't have one of those expensive OSHA-approved things that give you air while you're, like a space helmet, gives you air while you're sandblasting. So I made up this little thing so I don't have to, so it's concealed in there, like a small part sandblaster, like a homemade one, temporary one. So here's the cover that was on the tractor. I said I didn't know what size it was. Turned out to be 10 by 12. And like I said here, I put a bolt in the front where two grommets are put together. And you can see it comes together like that. Then I pull it all the way back really hard to get it past the seat. And then I lay this chain in the middle like that to hold that down. And then in the back, I tie one piece of string through the cast iron wheel thing and put it under the PTO and pull that side part way in. And if I wanted to, I could have put another one down from here, but I knew I was taking it off today. The humidity's down, so I'm going to start welding that thing up and sandblasting that piece with that homemade little sandblast tank.
That would work great.
All right, I'm going to get going with that.
That would have worked great
Later,
if I had
cleaned up all that rust. Oh,
if I had a decent air compressor, but I don't.
The hydraulic pump covers.
So I had to wire brush with the angle grinder.
Boy, that's really pitted, but
I didn't get the sandblast.
at least they wire brushed it all off.
Yeah.
Up to the gear pattern there. And the down the sides, on both sides. So, and then over here I've been wire brushing away. I found a piece of diamond plate. Looks like it's definitely at least an 1/8 inch thick. Yeah, I got a few thin pieces. This is too small for anything. This one's probably too skinny. That's my measurements. I'm going to cut 6 3/4 by 5 1/2. And this thing's so far gone, I should just go down to the junkyard. But so I guess what I decided to do is cut the diamond plate out and weld it on the inside. Right in there, and let it come out to here where it's supposed to be. Then I'll finally have the metal coming out to where it's supposed to be. Then I can flip it over, and then I can just drill through these holes. So that's why I'm going to put it on the inside. And then I got to fill up this big rusty piece I cut out of there. With pieces, and I should be getting somewhere. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with this top piece. I'm gonna weld the piece in here, and then just build up the weld to bring it back even. Or if I put two plates together, it could just form rust in between. So boy, that was so rusty. I can't believe I had to beat all that dust. But it's got some strength left. If I cut it any further, then I don't have any nice metal bending tool. I don't have no press. And I don't have a torch and all that. So I'm just going to leave it there so I can keep the shape and do it just the way I could with some of these scrap pieces of metal. And then put it back on there. Well, there's the bottom. Weld it in. I'm not going to go all the way around. Wherever I welded, it's welded real good. It's connected. So on 3 sides connected. And it's connected on the back. Down there, over there, up there. It's connected, so it's not going to be even, but it sits on this spot, not this spot, so this will just be an overhang, the part that was missing. Now I got to drill through these holes. Well, a while later, this was the easier one. I cut a piece off that piece and welded it in here on the ends and then did a short one in the middle. Then I flipped it over and burned that hole in there so that wiring from the steering column, that must be the lights. This wire here coming out of the steering post, I'm sure it's the lights. Yep, I'm wiggling it, see? Okay, so now we got that piece done. Now we got to do this. I mean, I had to cut all out of there, but it was so thin, and it was cracked all the way down to there. And it was so thin, and it was cracked all the way down to there, so I cut a big piece out. And then to strengthen up these, unless this piece overlaps, to strengthen up these, I could cut a short 3-inch angle on the inside on each one, down there and up here, to strengthen up what's left of these pieces of sheet metal. They overlap for some reason, for looks, I guess, or what? Why do they overlap? So I take it over here. Now we'll look at why it overlaps. What these little wings are for. Where the deck drops, the deck's done. So there's a drop off. So that's what the little wing is for. So I'll put an angle in here, then, or overlap one right on the outside, I don't care. But I gotta get this last piece done. Oh, I thought I was done and was gonna paint it, but then I see I bent this. Well, I kinda knew that. I bent this short. There's a gap in here of a 1/2 inch. It didn't come out to the perimeter, so I didn't think that would matter, but now I want to put that bolt in. Right there. See this one where it's all the way over? I can easily put the bolt in. plenty of room on each side. I can put my finger on both sides. Over here, no. Won't even stand straight up, and I'd never be able to turn it with a wrench, so I'm going to have to cut that nice bend I made. I made a nice bend, but since the steel was too thick and I don't have a torch, I couldn't cold bend it perfectly. That's why it came out with a gap. Luckily I didn't fill that in with a welder or nothing. I almost thought about it, but so now I gotta split it in a couple spots, and get that bent back there so that I could put the bolt in. So now I'm not done. Darn it. The curve needs to be way back. Had I had a torch, that wouldn't have happened. Okay, I had to go back and cut that. I split the radius and then beat it down on each side with a long bar and a hammer. And then it filled out. It filled out to the radius, and then the hole that I left where I burnt that out obviously got bigger and bigger as I pounded it to the edge. I filled with a little piece of metal I cut off. So now that's out to the edge. So then we look in here, and we look in there, and I'll get a bolt. There. It maybe not as perfect as that one on that side, but because that one don't have a piece overlapped like this one. But it's done. And then, as long as I got the welder back out, since this one did crack in this area here, where this was gone all the way around, I went on this side. And I cut about an inch piece of metal, and I strapped it on there right where the crack was on the other side. That one still had the thickness of the metal, but maybe not. There was some pinholes in there, so well, that's the heck of it. When you get the welder back out, then you even go further. And if I wanted to even do it better than that, what would I do? Inside here, where these two sides come together, where the other one broke, I could put angle irons in here on each side. I could put angle irons in there where they wouldn't have to overlap on the outside. But this one I overlapped on the outside. That one's just got a new piece of metal, that's all. And it was from the inside, and I cut the old one out, so now it's short, an 1/8 inch, but I don't care. Because I can't believe I put all this time into this. But I figured if I went down to the junkyard, possibly the one you get from the junkyard would be all rotted out in the bottom anyway. So then I would have went down there and got nothing, and it's 40 miles down there. So, oh, now I'm going to paint it up. Well, there it is, it's red. I still might run another piece over this side, linking past the patch to there, but this side. Well, certainly better than it was. So I'm going to put the tarp back on the tractor, let this dry till tomorrow, and if I think I should put another piece of metal on it, I'll do it. I doubt I'm going to. So I'll pull the tarp off tomorrow, put this back on. I'm going to keep it loose so I can tip it back when I put the gauges in it, I think. It's easier to see them. Yeah, then I got to put the gauges back in and bolt her down and be done with this terrible job. This is about as bad as when I bought this rim off an M that had a flat tire in the junkyard, and you can see how pitted it is there. It's pitted. I imagine when somebody took the tube off, half the rim came with it, but somehow it's just solid enough. That rough stuff, I'll just take some silicone or something and smooth it off. Of course, then you'd have that stuff on there if you ever tried to weld it, but that was a dirty job. Boy, if I wouldn't have paid $45 for that rim and had to work into taking the tire and tube off it, I'd have just threw it in the iron pile, but now I have a 38 by 11, or yeah, just measured it. You measure it from right there to right over there, so where the inside of the tire meets the rim. And then it's 11 to 11 and 38. So at least I cleaned that up and it's done with. I got the weekend I went down there, I got 5 rims. 2 of them are off of John Deere A, and they actually hold there. You know, with all the cracks in them, he didn't charge me more since I buy parts there, but that was my better deal. So now I can take my 49 or 1950H. That's over there in the shed. I could take those welded spokes off where the welding is broken, where it meets the rim, and I can see about a foot of inner tube. I can take those off and put those from the A on, that John Deere A on there, and I don't know if I'll ever weld it. I'll probably weld those rims up, or not. But anyway, I won't have to weld the rims up if I don't want to. And then I got another pair where it's got a flat tire. The tire's bad, and when I take the one bad tire off, I hope I don't find something like that where it's all corroded, because then I know I'll try to save it with this wire brush thing, you know, with this type of wire brush thing, and then it takes a good wire brush you pay about $15 or $20 for it, and brings it right down to this where it's about done for. Just doing one rim, it's pretty hard on those wire brushes. Doing the inside and doing the outside. But I hope I don't find that when I take that tire off, and that tire I don't think is savable, but the other one's got air in it. But just because they got air in it, doesn't mean somebody didn't have fluid in there at one time and has them all pitted. So I hope not. Well, I'm going to come back to this in the morning. Well, the sun's out today. Yeah, we got some partly cloudy sky, and I think I'm sweating, but it might be in the 70s, but it's a new day. And I got that painted up yesterday, but I decided this area right here where I cut out the rusty stuff, it was so thin, I cut out a good 3-4 inches of it. I don't think it's going to be as strong as it was unless I put a plate on this side. So I remembered that I junked that old Farmall seat. So what I did is I put on these leathers, that dusk respirator, and my leather gloves, and I used the chop saw, and chopped the ends. I chopped the ends off this old Farmall seat. There's the ends there. One there. One there and one there. So now I think I can cut some metal out of the sides of one of these. Right here, I'm going to cut some metal out of there. It's only rusted down part way, so I think I got 4 or 5 inches of good metal. I'm going to cut some metal out of there, and I'm going to make a patch for this side. And I'll bring it back. Well, if I wanted to cut out that piece of metal again from a battery, or from a seat base, I mean, all I got for the metal is, this one's pretty good. It's about 5.5 inches wide, or 6. That one's pretty good. This one, I must have had to cut off more rust. This has these extra things welded to it for the seat adjustment. And anyway, it ruined my chop saw discs. Now I got a little one that I have to replace again, and they're $5. So probably could have bought a piece of metal like this for $5. So that didn't pay off, but at least it came on a seat, and now it's going on a Super C. Anyway, I had to try something because I couldn't find a piece of metal, so now I got one to use. Yeah, I cut stuff with the, the chop saw and the sawzall. I guess I just didn't feel like burning stuff with the welder today, because I'm not going to weld this on. That's how I got the other idea. I grind a little weld down on here so this will fit, and it'll go just like that. Cover up where I burnt through, and we'll strengthen the 2 pieces together where I put that patch in there. So all that work is for this patch. Now I think I'll paint this patch first, since I'm not going to weld it, and then I'm going to drill holes and I'm going to bolt it on instead of welding it. Okay, here it is. My piece I showed you is on here. I just didn't feel like welding today, so today everything got bolted. Everything got bolted. And I suppose I could spray the heads, and I put a piece of angle on the inside. Right? Right there. So that holds the top to the side, and then this overlaps where I cut that rust out, and now I'm finally satisfied with it. Yeah, without that nice plate I put on the side where I cut that rust out, I just didn't. Oh, that was sharp. Ow. Oh yeah, it's rusted. It's real thin, and it gets like a razor blade. I'll put a little silicone over the sharp spot. But finally got it done at the cost of breaking my 1/4-inch drill bit, breaking my chop saw wheel, because I had the vise off it, and I found out what happens if you try to cut stuff with the vise off. Sucks what you're cutting into the blade, and broke it. And then I broke the sawzall blade, and wore down my chop saw blade 2 or 3 inches, I'm sure. And but I like this piece of steel I got. I mean, nice and thick. All right, so now it's just a matter of putting all these tools away, and tomorrow I'll put it back on the tractor and wire it.
Nope. I'll start something
Okay,
different.
with the patch put on the box, and I'm starting to pull out this generator. Gonna change it over to 12 volt. I got the top bolt off. I gotta get the bottom two. Squeaks. Bearings are out in it anyway. So put these 3 bolts somewhere in case I use them to put the alternator on there. Now I gotta get the brackets off the one from the Farmall H from the junkyard. Okay, let's see how this lines up. I guess we'll just leave the regulator there in case I change it back. What do we got? I guess we'd want the wires facing out this way.
Yeah, later on, when I put the alternator on, I face it the wrong way. You'll see.
The bracket that's there, if it would be back just a ½ inch that way, I could put this right up to it. But I think it should be back about a ½ inch. No, it turns out to be it's only an 1/8 inch. I could probably beat on that with a hammer. Well, I'll figure out what to do here. Off camera. That little piece there, if it was just back an 1/8 inch, what would that mean? That would mean I could butt it up against this, but then there wouldn't be nothing on this side. So let me go see on the internet what somebody else has made for a bracket. So the Farmall C bracket is a little different than the H bracket. It's got comes out a little further. Doesn't really come out much further, maybe a ½ inch, but it's got that different shape to it. These have this big wide thing, and all 3 of these all fit in here. Thought I got this off an F20, but we're probably going to adapt it to a generator. But, you know, it only has this little skinny thing. So, nothing to do with these, nothing. So, I'll have to come up with something different, way different. So I got the regulator off. Seems like the top, it was sitting like this. Seemed like the top one and the one on the back side both go to the generator. Then I made a couple different colors here, so when I put this back on, I don't have to read anything. I marked the harness and marked one red and marked one green. So that's it. 4 wires were on the 4 wires were on the regulator.
That's if I ever changed it back to 6 volt.
It's kind of unique. It has the up and down thing here to hook the vertical thing to hook the regulator to.
I do not cut this bracket up.
Should be some little short bolts. Yep.
I cut the H bracket up. They're more plentiful. This one seems to be so special. The way it goes around that motor mount.
Just back on it for now. Well, I came out pretty late today, so I didn't get much done, but I did learn what I got to do to wire the alternator, and I did learn that that it goes. I'm gonna have to make a bracket here that'll bring it up to about this height.
To get over the water
The
pump.
height where the bolt was from the top bracket. So now the bottom bracket's going to be up by the top bracket, and it's going to be way up there, like that.
Got to clear the water pump.
I will have to build that bracket to raise it up tomorrow. Now that I know what I have to do, I definitely have to make a bracket to raise it to raise it way up, because like I say, this bolt is about even with where the bottom of it's going to be now. The generator was way down here. This is going to be up here. So, a lot of work to do tomorrow. Get that piece of metal planned out that will lift it up, and then get a bracket, whether it's the old bracket cut up a little or a different one welded on it. And then I'll have to make the top support. Alright, back tomorrow. Well, it's another day, in the morning this time, so I can get some work done. I always had this thing bolted to the top of my hood. I always wondered what it was. Let me show you what I think it is. Yeah, let me show you. I'm gonna pull this hood off, and I found out, look at, handle. It's a handle. Otherwise, this is hard to handle. I'm either being funny or that's what it is. So here's my diagram and my piece of metal to lift it up, because I want it to be up about 4 inches or higher than it is now. So and it wouldn't have to be square. It could have a corner cut off, and then it needs to come out and then go over. I've got this big thick piece of steel here. It's about that thick. 3/8. I'm going to use that. Well, I don't have a torch, and I do my stick cutting with these 60 13/8 inch, and I went to the hardware store to buy some, and the eighth inch slot where you get 5 pounds, 5 pounds was out. Oh, we got a 10-pound one though, so I get stuck with 10 pounds. And I'm hoping these are the same rods. I like these. They look to be a different tint. So I'm gonna put these in 2 5-pound boxes, so I don't have to lug out so much weight. Makes sense? So now I can cut stuff. Sometimes I weld with it. When I weld, I use 70-14 low hydrogen rod. It almost chips itself. I guess this piece was 5 inches, and if I need it wider than that, this is 15 inches long. I could cut a piece off and weld it on, and then it would be this wide. So. And then I could cut it out of there, but I think 5 inches is going to do fine, because I've got to lift it up. And this goes up plenty. So even if this was 4 inches, it would be good. So I'll cut that off. Probably about there. I mean, I'm just guessing so far, so it'd be about, so it's going to be about a square. I might cut it off 6 inches at the furthest. Then I'll get my 2 holes drilled and then see where I'm at. First thing to note, the alternator made for a 3/8, the one with the wide thing that would go on the bottom. Every one of these mounting things, 5/16. 5/16. 5/16. So this long bolt that would have crossed here would have been a long 5/16 bolt. And it would have had to have been better than 6 inches. Would have had to have been better than 6 inches to put the nut in. So it was probably a 6.5 or 7 inch, 6.5 inch bolt. Of course, over here, I only need
I needed 3.5.
a 3.5 or so. It's only 2, so probably a 3, because this kind of stuff is 3/8 thick. So let's just say it's half, and it would take up an inch. These are just things to note as I plan to start building it. This little piece they stuck on this thing, wow, this thing must be 1/2 inch. It is. They put a half inch piece on that. Of course, they probably used whatever they had laying around. It's getting windy. I haven't had it windy when I'm taping before. That might be coming out in the video. I put a line there to put the bolts on, but then I thought, hey, I got the old piece and it's all spaced right, so I'll just put this on here and put a couple clamps on it and go over to the drill press. So that's what I got to do now. Well, I got the plate cut, and if I make it like my drawing, I have to cut a corner off. So I can leave that for later, though.
And then I never cut it off.
And now I think I'll start fooling around with putting a bracket in. Well, one thing kind of leads to another, and now I gotta solder the, I couldn't get, I was almost gonna knock a breaker back on the grinder, so now I gotta solder and put shrink tube on and then put it back together. Okay, I've got weld this. I cut one of these brackets up, so half will go that way. Then I'm taking the other half and bringing it around to the other side. So this is the piece that will be welded onto that plate, and then it goes through the. It has a hole there. It goes, has the normal hole. So the shoulder there will butt up against the alternator, and then the other piece is going to go the distance and come around on the other side. So then I'll have 2 sides to it, so it'll be more stable. Well, I got my 7014s. I'm going to tack that. I got to get the chipping hammer, but I got to weld that together, so come back when that's done. Well, there it's all welded. I welded it inside and out. You're only seeing the inside, but flip it over. There's the side that I had to fill in, so that one's going to have all the penetration. I had it on 140, 70-14 low hydrogen 1/8" rod. Easy to chip. Barely chip it. It almost chips it. Almost chips itself. So now bring it over there. I gotta let this cool so I don't get burnt. Now I'm getting some paint on it. I guess it's done as good as it's gonna get. So back to painting.
Good thing about painting something, now you get a brick to let it dry. Yeah, so I split that Farmall H generator bracket in half and put
Good enough.
the other half on the other side.
Well, I'm tightening this thing up here. Find my socket. Yeah. If I would have drilled these holes in the bottom there, just an 1/8" lower, 1/4" lower, I would have got it up a little higher. I already overlapped this this generator bracket. Generator bracket's about 1.1 inches. I already got it about 1/3 of it sticking up. That's where I put a weld in the back. Just in case I gotta move it, I put more than a tack there and more than a tack back there, but I'd have to cut 2 welds. And I could easily take these 2 bolts out. Hopefully I had this tight when I was trying to figure out where to put it, because it changes location. Okay, let's see, it isn't touching in there. It's not hitting the water pump. I wouldn't say there's more than a half inch play, but it's not hitting the water pump.
I got lucky.
So now I gotta put on the alternator here.
Yeah.
Let's see, which side do I want the nut on? I guess I could put it on that side. No, I'll do it on this side. I gotta pick a 3.5 inch bolt or a 3 1/4. This is only 3 inch, and I can only screw it on about half of a nut width. but it's enough to hold it right now to continue on. I had it started once before.
There's not much sticking out using a 3-inch bolt. But the hardware store, is 7 miles and then 7 miles back. I could take a 5-inch bolt and cut it off and retap it before I'd have to do the trip to the hardware store.
It's just a soft grade bolt. Well, that's good enough to hold it. You're going to have to put it, like I said, a different one on there anyway. Funny. You didn't tell me. I was paying attention, just putting the bolt there. Pulley's on the other side. That's funny. Now I can see if I strip the bolt.
I don't know why the nut started hard.
No, I did not strip it.
Sometimes when a nut starts hard, it's good. Then it acts like a lock nut when you tighten it up.
I suppose if I really cranked it in, it might fill up this little space. Now let's see if I lined it up. There it is. Looks.
Hey, you can see where I ground off the fins.
I think it'll work.
I cut myself on them.
Well, now to get the top brace on. It's obvious where to put it. Here's the bolt. Here's the radiator brace. And here's the nut in front, but I imagine if I loosen, or, so I guess it's not obvious. It could be this bolt, it could be that bolt, or it could be drill a hole into this brace. Okay, 3 possible. Well, I've tried this a couple different positions. I'm going to go with it like that. The further up on here I get, the crookeder it would line up. Because this slants out. The other side does too. So right where it quits slanting is probably where I drill it. And that gives me... Now I guess I do got to put it up on part of the slanted part. That'd probably work. I could always fill that back in. So I think I'll pick that spot right there. Unless there's a way I could straighten this brace right there so it wouldn't pull me crooked. Oh, I know. I could shim the back of this piece, and then it would go straight.
Which I never do.
Yeah, all I'd have to do is build up some weld on a 15 degree there or something, and then it would be a lot better, because if it was straight, if I put it down here where it would be straight.
Sorry, I didn't line up the camera very good for this little segment.
Comes out way over here. tighten it up. I can't even touch it. I'd have to put a couple washers in there. If I put it up here, see as I come up, I guess it goes in. So let me.
This is all crucial in picking this spot. If I put it way in, the alternator's almost touching the exhaust manifold.
Gives me that much. Gives me about that much. So that's what I'm going with. Now I'm gonna have to get that hole drilled in there. I think I still got an angle drill from drilling the 2x4s out when I built the house. I'll have to go find it. I guess I don't have a stub drill bit, even if I use that 90-degree drill. So I think my best bet's to take the hood off. And see what this brace does. Oh, the brace has a bolt all the way through here, all the way through on the other side, and then one here. So I'm going to have to take those off. I've already got the hole marked to where I'm going to drill it when I get the brace off. Shouldn't be long now, and I'll have the brace off. Got these bolts out. I had to heat them up. I didn't want to melt something on the radiator, so I didn't heat it very long. Possibly only about 45 seconds. But it was enough. Okay, here's my mark to where I'm going to drill it on the drill press. 5/16. So there, you got the hole. Should be some strength left in there. Those were bigger holes, so they took off more metal, so mine's less. Oh, now to put it back on.
It's a puzzle. Yeah, it always catches. So when I don't film a part and just turn the camera back on where it's automatically on there, this is the kind of stuff you don't see, where it catches and you drop something and you put it on twice. And
Okay, well, I'm going to coil up those little bolts I had to heat up. In a few minutes I'll get her bolted back on. Okay, it's on there. What I did with the slanted part, I never did weld a little on there to make it square. I double knotted it so I didn't have to pull it in, so it wouldn't get pulled crooked. So that way, double knotting it can't come loose, and it leaves the gap. And it leaves that gap in there.
see, that's
And when I pulled it in, it's nice. And here's I used a piece of wire and my paint stick. And when I tightened it up on the shortest distance, where it's almost too close to the exhaust manifold, but the shortest was 21 3/4.
for belt size.
And I stretched it out, and it came down to here. Then I took the longest it'll go, and that was 23 3/8. So all I get to work with is about 1.5 inches for adjustment. So then I don't really want it against the exhaust up as close as I don't want it as close to the exhaust manifold if I can help it. So if I got that little bit to play with, instead of getting it a 21 3/4, maybe I'd get a 22 or 22 1/4 maybe, 22 1/4. That way it gives me 1 1/8 to adjust it, because it could go up to 23 3/8. So that's what I'm gonna have to do. And I don't know how much further I'll go with this video. Pretty much everything I was gonna fix is fixed. I'm waiting for some gauges to come from China. So the oil pressure gauge don't work at all. This was the best day since I started working on it. It was I don't think it's, I don't know what it was, but it feels like lower 70s. So I don't know if I'll tape anymore or not. I got this thing all solid and heavier now. I got the alternator up in there because he put a 6-volt coil on it.
I mean 12 volt.
That's why he put a 12-volt coil on it, and he put the battery way up here where it's got the thin cables.
Because it's,
so yes,
it's,
I could build a battery box. I could build a battery box right here using these big huge bolts. And put a battery box down here. I don't want to ever put it up here again. This would be nice to be able to reach in there and get at your wiring. So yes, if I built a battery box here, then it's more work. Got to make sure it doesn't hit the clutch linkage and the steering. But I could get one built there, and I'm sure these old cables aren't going to be long enough to go here. And they're, what are they, number 0 cables or number 2 or something? They're costly. But that's what I have to do to put it back to 6 volt. Because the way it is where the battery is, he's got those skinny cables going up there. So I figured I'd just finish, since I had this alternator in the garage, but I had to do all that studying to learn how to wire it. I didn't know anything. That's what I'm going to do, run that alternator wire to the starter, where the starter goes to the battery, and then I'm going to run this exciter wire that also does the idiot light. It's right here. I've got to hook one to it. And I bought some 10-gauge wire to run up to the starter, so I actually had the 10-gauge wire. I think it was like $12. But the rest of the stuff, I'm just going to use my 16-gauge wire that I used. My 16-gauge wire. I brought out 5 rolls of different colors. I'm not buying anything just to run that exciter wire. So I just got to do that wiring, and then the lights I'm not even going to hook up. I'm going to use a drill bit. I'm going to use a 3-foot drill bit or a 2-foot drill bit, and I'm going to drill through here if I have to get that wire out of there. And I'm going to use some other piece of wire and some technique where I get the one that's going to come out here doubled up on this one, so when I get it pulled far enough, I can hook it with something and pull it down to where it's already teed into it. And these lights are shot. I pulled the rubber back at least 2 inches of, at least the other side, 2 inches of bulbs rusted. I seen the hardware store has some for $22.
Those are probably.
So I'm not going to plug my lights in because I don't even know if these are 12 volt.
Yeah, they're probably 6
volt. I don't know
volt.
nothing about them. I don't know how to figure it out. But if the alternator is good, I know the coil's good because it starts right out. It starts right up, but it just deadens the battery. And I didn't want to look at all this corrosion anymore. And this steering was a little shaky with that all rusted out. So I'll have all that fixed, and then the next thing is I'm going to rebuild the carburetor. because he said every day we used it, the float quit sticking, but it was sticking, and it could use a clean out. And I gotta grease it, I gotta change the oil in this thing, I got the oil and antifreeze and the filter changed, I gotta check the transmission, and then I'm gonna get off of this. I'm gonna put a blade on the back so I can level the hump in my driveway. Alright, well, I'm gonna download this. I think I went far enough. This is longer, it's plenty long. Plenty long. I greased this. The bushing in here is the other one's good. And the toolbox, I'm gonna have to take it off, and I'm not gonna weld this one. I got a different toolbox. As long as the C one will fit, and I'll just change it. I got one with no rust, and in this channel in the middle there is definitely, I'll have to have somebody bend one up or buy a piece of channel. Anyway, at least I don't think the hood will hit that. I guess I could put that back on quick.